Well, Craig Scroggie, the founder of data centre owner and builder NextDC, I've got to tell you, he's a force of nature, full of energy and ideas. And this week he showed me around one of his company's 17 data centres. The astonishing thing is the company's got another 17 in the planning, and one of those is 10 times the size of the giant structure that he took me around this week, what he calls a new town for Australia. It's just a town full of computer servers. But these servers, no matter the misgivings about energy and water use, are essential pieces of national infrastructure. Australia can't afford to fall behind in the race to roll out generative artificial intelligence. And to be fair, you sense the federal and most state governments genuinely understand this. But Craig Scroggie has astonishing insight into how this all will play out. It's one of the more important interviews you can listen to from an Australian perspective right now. Scroggie, always good to chat to you, but this time face-to-face, which is terrific. Just explain to me where we are right now in this S3 data centre in Sydney.
We are in the centre of the internet universe. All of our digital infrastructure lives in a world-class facility like this. Whether you use online video systems, Netflix, you listen to Spotify, you are using Office 365 for your enterprise email, that critical infrastructure lives in a data centre. And those data centres need to live in the communities and around us to provide all of those services that run our digital lives.
Okay, so in this data centre, are there those new GRU chips that NVIDIA has created, which create the generative artificial intelligence that now is, the big boom in the world right now?
NVIDIA is an amazing story. When you think about the course of the last decade of computing, we've been through the internet era, and that was largely defined by cloud computing. So there was pay-per-use. It was building compute services that organisations were able to not build and deploy and manage infrastructure in their own buildings, but to start to use pay-per-use computing. The next era of computing is the one that NVIDIA is defining in real time. And the GPU era is the move to direct liquid-to-chip cooling. The compute infrastructure is 10 to 100 times more dense, and this is the era where GPUs will start to produce intelligence or manufacture knowledge.
So do you have them here physically? You do. And are they easy to acquire? Because obviously, really, if you think about it, ChatGPT, OpenAI, has really only been around for the best part of, not 2 years yet.
Yeah, November 23,
Yeah.
for most people, an incredibly important moment in the history of large language models and a really significant advancement in artificial intelligence, because it's when AI became a consumer-facing product and everybody could see the power of what a large language model was capable of doing. Essentially, the production of tokens is the output from those GPUs.
Which people would know through Bitcoin and crypto in particular. That's right, isn't it? Because that was a generation of tokens to create those digital currencies.
Yeah, many of the things on the blockchain, if you think about the way crypto worked, is the mining of tokens. And it's interesting because a lot of the companies that were crypto providers in the early day have now transitioned into this extraordinary opportunity, which is the production of tokens to manufacture intelligence. So many of those crypto companies have now moved into the selling of GPU as a service, which is selling on-demand capability.
So what you're saying, this is the heart of the internet, but it's also the heart of the future of our economy. That's the reality, because what comes out of here is not only just all the intelligence and the information, but the future business ideas come out of here as well. The future research comes out of here.
Yeah, data centres for a long time obviously have been the home for computers. So when you think about efficiency, what is a data centre? So let's use an example. In a transport context, we have planes, trains, buses, cars. And with data centres, most of the infrastructure used to be on-premise. A bank had a data centre, a telco had a data centre. And when you take those computers out of office buildings that weren't designed to be highly energy efficient, you can put them into a single building that can run those computers at a much higher density, at a far lower cost, and we get a significantly better sustainability outcome by essentially taking lots of cars off the road and putting people on buses.
Okay, but then the argument is that data centres require energy. So therefore, is cheaper energy prices Does that make a data centre more efficient? Does it make our data cheaper for us to use ultimately?
The energy trilemma is a great topic. There are three elements ultimately. When we think about Australia's role in the global computing landscape, Australia actually has an incredible opportunity to be a world leader in the future of artificial intelligence. But we do need to solve the energy trilemma. We need green electrons, net zero sustainability, so that's an important aspect. We need firm electrons because at night, and we're blessed with an amazing renewable landscape in Australia, but when the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing, at night when you go home and you want to watch Netflix, use your on-demand computing services, we still need that baseload power to run digital infrastructure.
And that becomes more important the further these data centres are away from where that energy is being sourced, isn't it?
The types of data centres, so we have very big hyperscale data centres, they run cloud computing and AI systems. There's different types of AI training. There's AI training of large language models, and then there's the AI inferencing, which is the interacting with the model. We have metropolitan data centres, just like this one that's very close to the heart of the Sydney CBD, and it's hosting customers that have low latency requirements. They want cloud on-ramps. They want to be able to get access to their data within milliseconds, and so the location of it's critically important.
So that's going to be financial services, that's going to be telcos.
Hospitals.
Yes.
Emergency services, real-time telemetry systems.
So in other words, if you're running robotic operations in a hospital, you'd need to use a data centre like this very close so the latency is very small.
Well, if you go even one step further to the edge type of data centres that we build, the edge serves a couple of functions. The first one is Australia's internet traffic. So our Sunshine Coast facility will have almost a third of Australia's internet traffic flowing from the west coast of the US into the Sunshine Coast and then through Australia. Those are cable landing stations that allow that internet infrastructure to connect Australia to the rest of the world. The other application is that we have mining customers and others in remote areas. We build in Darwin, we build in the Pilbara, in Port Hedland and Newman, because not only do you need telecommunications infrastructure that supports terrestrial fibre and submarine cable, we have increasingly an extraordinary number of satellites being launched in LEO, MEO and GEO infrastructure that allow us to use services. If you fly on a Qantas plane, you'll use Viasat's service to get internet access when you're in the air. If you live in remote Australia, you probably use the SpaceX Starlink infrastructure to get high-speed internet access. Many of those are run in these edge data centres. And then you've got mining safety systems and large-scale data telemetry for big data sets that doesn't need to be brought back to the cities. It can be processed at the edge. So there's many different types of applications.
Go back to energy. You and I in the past have talked about nuclear energy. You're a proponent for nuclear energy. You think it should be necessary in Australia. And the reality is that in many big data centres, giant data centres in America, they're starting to build sort of the nuclear reactors alongside the data centres. Such is the need for that energy to be on all the time. We're not there yet. Is it an argument still to be had in this country?
Look, nuclear is obviously a really sensitive political topic in Australia. And when I'm asked the question about this, I like to think that I am pro-science, not necessarily pro-nuclear. I'm pro any energy source that will allow Australia to solve the energy trilemma: green electrons, firm electrons, and the lowest cost electrons that we could possibly get. Australia as a competitive nation has an opportunity to build an AI industry and a workforce. The history of mining in Australia that built the Australia that we know today was built on the export of resources. The future of Australia mining could be the export of tokens through the production of artificial intelligence. But we do need to solve the energy trilemma, and in order to get firm electrons and get cheap ones, we need to consider every new energy alternative. Nothing should be off the table.
Okay, so Sam Altman, who created OpenAI, he's the boss, the founder, he's now thinking about data centres which could be as big as Manhattan Island, which are astonishing to think of the scale of that. Is that something that even Australia needs to contemplate in the future?
We just announced our $15 billion joint venture for our new Sydney development, which is 850 megawatts. So it's just under 1 gigawatt of compute.
Explain that to an ordinary person like me.
It's really big.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's good enough.
It's really big.
What about in
well,
terms of
the entire building that we're in today, which is enormous, it's huge. It's just under 100 megawatts.
Yes.
So it would be 10 of these. It's a big city.
10 of these.
Yeah. It's a big city.
So it's literally like a small country town.
Yeah, it's a town, and building them and constructing them on that scale is essentially like building a full physical community, but you're also building a digital ecosystem at the same time. If you use that example of a gigawatt data center in the US, enormous data center demand, the bulk of training for large language models today that's driving the growth in artificial intelligence and GPUs is being done in the US. And you're seeing places like Abilene in Texas where they announced the 5 gigawatt development for Stargate. Those scale infrastructure projects are the largest digital infrastructure projects that have ever been undertaken in the world today. Now, yes, they're hundreds of thousands of GPUs and they're hundreds of megawatts of power, water, all of the other resources that are required to build those digital cities. And we are building them here in Australia. We are incredibly positioned, well positioned, uniquely positioned, Five Eyes country, a trusted security partner, a stable political landscape to work in, a known regulatory environment. Australia's a great place to be able to build some of the world's largest digital infrastructure. Sure, there's a few things to solve. The energy trilemma, copyright, protecting the rights of existing users, but also at the same time finding the logical path to creating exemptions for text and data mining legislation that acknowledges that copyright owners need to be protected, but allows training to take place.
I was going to ask you about copyright because that's one of the big issues right now. Who owns the data? If I've generated something, is this mine? If I got a copyright over that? Or is that something that can be scraped in this modern world of artificial intelligence?
Large language models are trained on all publicly available data. So when you teach a model, and particularly general artificial intelligence, so general model, it's trained on all and any information it can get, text, audio, video, and that's how it builds its knowledge base. It's like sending a child to school and they learn. And then when we send them out into the wild and they graduate from school, they start interacting with the community, and that's inferencing in the large language model sense. Doing that in Australia on large scale, the training component, today it's not clear under the text and data mining laws that that's not infringing on copyright. So the first critical thing for us to be able to do is simply acknowledge that we want to protect the copyright owners' rights. This is not a hugely complicated problem to solve, because if you go all the way back to Steve Jobs solving this for Apple Music, Spotify having solved it, acknowledging and protecting copyright is something that we have a mechanism to solve for today. If we make that clear, the US, Japan, Singapore and the European Union have given definitive carve-outs for the training of models. Australia will make its own regulatory decisions, and should. The quicker we solve that, the bigger opportunity. We will unlock a wall of billions of dollars of global infrastructure investment in Australia if we get clear on that issue.
Okay, then another one. How important is it for Australia to have sovereign capability of its own data?
Well, I think that is a fundamental right of every country, and it's going to be increasingly important in a ever-evolving geopolitical landscape. We live in interesting times.
Because the AUKUS submarine project, for example, you would want to know that the data from that is kept securely in Australian hands.
I think in a national security sense, we'll always want to know that we control our data, that we decide who can access it, and that we can secure it and protect it from foreign adversaries. I think that's a really important principle in the protection of sovereign infrastructure. For many digital and critical infrastructure providers in Australia, we are classified as a SON under the SOCI Act. So those people who build and operate digital infrastructure are held to very high standards around the protection and the ownership and operation of assets. And I think that then extends out into the data universe itself, making sure that we have the infrastructure built in country, that we have the data resident in country where it is subject to our laws and our regulation, and that we know that we can protect it.
Craig Scroggie, always great to chat to you. Many thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ross.